The hammer slipped from my hand the moment I heard her say it. For a second, the world seemed to stop. The afternoon breeze moved through the maple trees. The old white fence creaked softly, and Margaret Harper, my ex-girlfriend's mother, looked at me with tears gathering in her eyes. What she said next would stay with me for the rest of my life. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts around the world. 3 years earlier, I thought I had my future figured out. I was living in a small town outside Nashville, Tennessee, working as a carpenter and saving money to start my own contracting business. More importantly, I was deeply in love with Rachel Harper. We had spent 4 years together building dreams, making plans, and imagining a life that seemed certain. Then everything changed. Rachel received an incredible job opportunity in Seattle. I was proud of her, but neither of us could figure out how to make our lives fit together anymore. She wanted to go. My business plans kept me rooted in Tennessee. We tried long distance for nearly a year, but eventually the calls became shorter, the silences became longer, and the relationship quietly faded away. There was no dramatic fight, no betrayal, no anger, just heartbreak. Sometimes those are the hardest endings of all. After we separated, I focused entirely on work. I poured every ounce of energy into building my company. From the outside, my life looked successful. My business grew steadily. I bought a small house. I earned respect in the community. But there were still moments when memories appeared unexpectedly. A song on the radio, a familiar restaurant, a holiday tradition, and sometimes, when I drove past the Harper family home, I wondered how everyone was doing. Then, one Saturday morning, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer because I didn't recognize the number. When I heard Margaret's voice, I froze. She sounded older than I remembered, softer somehow. She explained that a recent storm had damaged the fence surrounding her property. Several sections had collapsed completely. She had called a few contractors, but most were booked for weeks. Then she asked if I could help for a moment. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to decline. The old wounds weren't entirely healed. The Harper family had once felt like my own family. Seeing them again might reopen feelings I had worked hard to put behind me. But Margaret sounded exhausted. So I agreed. The following afternoon, I arrived with lumber, tools, and supplies. The house looked mostly the same. White siding, flower beds. The porch where Rachel and I had spent countless evenings talking about the future. I tried not to think about that. Margaret greeted me warmly and thanked me repeatedly for coming. As I examined the damaged fence, I noticed little signs of change everywhere. The garden wasn't as carefully maintained. Several flower boxes sat empty. The property felt lonelier than I remembered. For hours, I worked under the warm Tennessee sun. Piece by piece, the fence began taking shape again. Margaret occasionally brought out lemonade or checked on my progress. We talked about ordinary things, weather, work, neighbors. But beneath every conversation, there seemed to be something unspoken. Late in the afternoon, as I installed the final section, Margaret sat quietly on a nearby bench. She watched me for several minutes before finally speaking. She told me that after Rachel moved away, life had become difficult for her. Her husband had passed away unexpectedly the year before. Many friends had relocated or retired elsewhere. Her daughter was thousands of miles away pursuing her career. The large family home often felt painfully empty. As she spoke, I could hear the loneliness she had been carrying. Then she said something that caught me completely off guard. She told me that after Rachel and I separated, she had worried she would never hear from me again. Not because I owed her anything, but because, in her words, she had never stopped thinking of me as family. I stood there speechless. She explained that throughout the years Rachel and I had dated, I had fixed things around the house, helped her husband with projects, attended family dinners, and shown up whenever someone needed help. According to Margaret, those things had mattered far more than I ever realized. Then she said the sentence that nearly broke me. She said, "Some people leave your family tree, but they never leave your heart." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The fence stood finished behind me, but it suddenly felt like something much larger had been repaired. Not a relationship, not the past. Something deeper, a sense of belonging. A reminder that love isn't always romantic. Sometimes it's the connections we build through years of kindness, loyalty, and simple acts of showing up for one another. That evening, Margaret insisted I stay for dinner. We shared stories about her husband, laughed about old memories, and talked about life. For the first time in years, the sadness I associated with that chapter of my life began to transform into gratitude. Over the following months, I stopped by occasionally to help with small repairs. Sometimes we shared coffee on the porch. Sometimes I mowed the lawn. Sometimes we simply talked, nothing complicated, just friendship, just family in a different form. Then something unexpected happened. I started healing in ways I hadn't realized I needed. The bitterness I didn't know I was carrying slowly disappeared. The regrets lost their weight, and the memories became something warm instead of painful. Before we reach the end, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had someone remain important in your life even after circumstances changed? Leave a comment below and share your experience. Your story might encourage someone else reading through the comments today. Nearly a year later, Margaret attended the grand opening of my new office. She brought homemade cookies and proudly introduced me to everyone she met. Not as her daughter's ex-boyfriend, not as a contractor, but as family. Standing there among friends, clients, and neighbors, I finally understood what she had meant that afternoon beside the fence. Life doesn't always give us the endings we expect. Sometimes relationships change shape instead of disappearing. Sometimes people enter our lives for a season, but leave behind lessons that last forever. And sometimes the most meaningful gift isn't getting the future you planned. It's discovering that kindness, loyalty, and love can survive even when life takes a different path. As the sun set that evening, Margaret hugged me goodbye and smiled with the same warmth I remembered years earlier. The fence I repaired that day is probably weathered by now. Some boards may have been replaced, paint may have faded, but her words never did. Some people leave your family tree, but they never leave your heart. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone special, and subscribe for more uplifting stories. And remember, the smallest acts of kindness often leave the deepest marks on someone's life. Sometimes, long after the fence is repaired, the healing continues.